Hola, ¿qué pasa, campeones? My name is Diego, and this is the spot where we talk all things Barça. Today, I have an absolute pleasure to bring to the followers of Barça Blaugranes a D-Spot exclusive. In his two-part report, I got the chance to sit down with the makers of Take the Ball, Pass the Ball, the new Barça documentary, and discuss both the current state of the club and team as well as their film. So go out and watch it and enjoy these next few minutes of privileged, clear-minded Barça talk with these two top-notch football journalists. Do you think that there's two sides to Barça? One that is clearly motivated, comes out, plays the big teams on big occasions with a lot of passion, a lot of heart, and then we see the other Barça playing a Rayo Vallecano side with maybe less motivation. Do you think that is a factor?
Can I go? I think people, Diego, really have short memories. I would argue that under the best of Rijkaard, even under the best of Guardiola, I think we've seen, if not performances identical to that of Vallecas, we've seen performances whereby they get through. And now, because this era plays less Sistine Chapel's kind of football, there's less room for forgiveness. So although Rayo in many stages outplayed Barcelona at the weekend, although Barcelona were left looking for a substitute in Dembélé to equalise, and Piqué up front as an auxiliary centre forward, which was a tactic we saw under Cruyff. We occasionally saw under Guardiola, if anyone remembers the second leg of the Inter game in the Champions League semi-final 2012, Piqué was up front, very nearly got a goal.
So desperation, though, isn't it?
It's well, I agree with, like, if you go to the Guardiola Cruyff plan and you've got to send a man up stage like Alex Sanko was for Cruyff, you can say desperation, I agree, but
how often would that have happened at Vallecas under Guardiola or under Cruyff?
Well, maybe at Valladolid, or maybe at Hércules, or maybe at Numancia when Pep lost his first game. It wasn't unheard of, and one of the things that the Dream Team will say now to us, looking back and comparing to the Guardiola era, that the Guardiola team was much more robust and got caught out less often. But the Dream Team did get caught out, even Guardiola did get caught out. You know, all I was going to say was that poor old Pep Guardiola was chased out of town being told he didn't have a plan B. Do you remember that phrase that was used all the time? Okay, from maybe around the world rather than Barca fans. Plan B worked. All I'm saying is, Barcelona for much of the game at Vallecas were not impressive, but they got out of it, they got through it, and there was no Messi or obviously, stating things that no young Xavi, no young Iniesta, no young Puyol, and therefore I understood what happened a little bit more on Saturday than some people did.
So let me ask you this, Duncan. Graham mentioned the plan B, something, or I should say another thing that a lot of Barca fans criticize Valverde for maybe not implementing this plan B early enough. There's often times that Barca fans feel that he waits very long to make substitutions. He did do so against Rayo Vallecano, as Graham pointed out, but do you think that's something that he's learned now and something he was lacking earlier? Well, this whole idea of a plan B I'm referring to?
Graham and I were lucky enough to be commentating at the Classico, as you know, with a man who's in the bar behind us, Steve Archibald, and Steve pretty much at half-time, having not been a Dembélé fan for this entire season, pointing out all his weak points, said at half-time, this is a game for Dembélé. He made the change eventually. Dembélé came on.
Just about 74 minutes, more or less. So
I think
your answer is it took him nearly half an hour.
It took him nearly half an hour, where Steve was calling for that literally on 46 minutes. And if, with all due respect to Steve, if Steve's seen that, then I'm sure a lot of other football people would have seen that as well. So I think, he does take his time to make the changes. However, it was the right change. Obviously, Dembélé in the Classico came on, changed the game. Dembélé at Vallecas came on. All right, the goal's a bit lucky, but ended up changing the game. So I don't know. I wouldn't like to criticise him too much. Last season was amazing, fantastic.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget, it's a point Graham's just made, but Barca are without the best player that the world's ever seen. It's not like losing your captain. You're losing the best player in the world. So of course the style's going to be different. Of course things are going to be tricky.
I don't want to be too defensive of Valverde, but Valverde's a bit of a whipping boy. And I'm a little bit pissed off with the way in which people are like, well, he's not this, he's not that, he's not the next thing. Too rarely do they put it in context. He's caught in this debate between speed and efficacy. When every coach, pre-planning and watching during a game, is caught in that same debate. Do you want a quick change or do you want the right change? And if you're arguing that he needs to shave his decision-making time and his reading of the game, then all you're really saying, rather than being critical, or I'd like it termed this way, is like, would we like Piqué to make the ball out of the park every time he's got to, like, before the second goal where the ball comes in from the right and RDT heads it off the post? If Piqué puts the ball out, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, sits on a positional decision or a challenge decision too long. It's part of football. Duncan's point is that so far in the 2 games we've been talking about, Valverde's got the decisions right. So if you want precipitated changes, if the fan base watching this want precipitated changes, they can easily get that. But then, what if they're not the right changes? It's easy for us to cast opinions, but for any coach, not just Valverde, it's harder to say, there you go, that's the change I'm making, and let's accept all the consequences.
Do you understand, though, especially both of you guys, obviously Graham, you writing the book, The Makings of the Greatest Team of All Time, and your fantastic documentary, Take the Ball, Pass the Ball.
Our doc. We worked together very much on it, yeah.
Yeah, of course. It was based on Graham's book, in fact. Both of you that are learned people about not only the game, but the Barça game in particular, that, are we seeing this current team just straying so far away from what you guys talked about in the book and the documentary, from this philosophy, this Barça DNA, as they call it?
I violently disagree with that, because is a team organic? Does a team choose its own facets? Does a team choose its own style? What if you wanted to reterm it and say, is the club moving away? Is La Masia, is the football base moving away from Cruyff concepts? I'll say, listen, is your watch stopped? Yeah, for about 5-6 years. That's for sure. But like, what was the one we showed? Was it last week that we showed Barca scoring a 30 pass move? Is that right?
Yeah.
So when you've got a move where Barcelona pass the ball 30 times before it goes into the net, and do so in a way where they're not being stymied, they're not being suffocated, they're doing the things exactly that you were reaching for, where they're pulling and prodding and shifting and waiting, and now, no, not now, and back we go again. And that's if you want to talk about the essence of Cruyff's team that he coached, and Guardiola's team, or even Rijkaard's team, you saw in that instance, that beautiful goal, something identical, and it really was extraordinary.
And one other point that's important to pick up is Arturo, sorry. As you know, Diego, you've seen him plenty of times this season. Arturo, we're talking about. He's got the absolute Barca DNA about him. They've brought in a young kid. Okay, he's not come up through the Masia, but he is a Barca player through and through. And he's worked his way into the first team, and now it doesn't look like there's any chance that Ernesto Valverde is going to drop him. So I think it's difficult to say that they've kind of gone too far away from the Barca that we saw on the pitch.
I challenge also anybody, right? Maybe you need to put fucking parental warning on this, but I'm pissed off now. So you the president and the board for years has said, the previous president fucking hated Cruyff. This president has, not that I'm giving him an aval and I'm backing, but he's gone and made peace with Jordi Cruyff, who in his own way, he's not Johan either as a footballer or as a thinker, but I think he's extraordinary in his own way, literally extraordinary as a football resource, as a football person. This president's gone and made peace with him. But like, you see a club that's pulling away from the Cruyff ideas for years and years, which is employing coaches at football Basel and scouting at football Basel level in a way which is not allied to the Cruyff idea. At which point, the greatest set of footballers in your club's entire history grow old or move on. You fucking tell me another club that goes, I'll tell you what, there you are, we'll do exactly the same for the next 10 years. It doesn't fucking happen. If you've got Iniesta and Puyol and Xavi and Dani Alves and Alba and Victor Valdez and Pedro, and I'm talking about the guys who are developed through and the guys who are taught to play that way, whether you want to talk about Eto'o, or whether you want to talk about like the bit parts that maybe Touré played in understanding exactly what the football was like. When you don't produce that through La Masia, what's going to happen? It's going to look different, it's going to feel different. And anybody watching now can say like, well, I'm unhappy with the team and it doesn't play like, well, what the fuck did you expect? Pardon my language. Now, I've got to say it like that because sometimes you just got to make the point.
Yeah.
Is the club oriented the way which would produce another Guardiola era? No. Is football Barça? Have they gone too far away from the ideal that inspired us to make the film together? Yeah, they've gone too far away from that. Do I see, personally speaking, things which I enjoy and I admire and I back? No. You're talking about is it inevitable that the team looks different and plays differently and can't suffocate a game and open things up like a can, you know, a knife through a right peach? Well, of course they can.
But can the starting 11 still play with the Barca DNA? Yes, they can.
I think we've seen that they can.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that they can. And also, there's a really pungent debate about if you have Sergio Busquets, who's like still fantastic at the things he was always fantastic about. But you allow what they say a descontrol of the ball. Now last season, poor Valverde thought that the way to solve that was putting Rakitic next to Busquets and Paulinho in alongside them, so that they could control games, play 4-4-2, which was verboten. Sorry for the German. What was it in Dutch?
Verboten.
Verboten. You know, it's 4-3-3 or nothing, or we're all disgraced and we're crazy. But what he realised was that by doing that, it gave Iniesta and Busquets the absolute best chance to have, in Iniesta's case, a brilliant farewell season. How did he play in the cup final? One of his great Barca games of all time. He left with 2 trophies. Busquets was more effective because things can't stay the same. He came up with remedies, and is he being valued, or is he being trusted or praised for that? No, he's not, and therefore I hate arguments without context and equilibrium.